just moved in one of these 2 rooms.
We're documenting a structure that we found last night.
I'll go up to the house, bang on it and say, I don't believe.
Yeah.
Now
What the fuck was that?
Hello everyone, welcome to Cryptic Heartland podcast, and it's good to be back again this week. I'm Jeremiah, I'm producing the show this week, and we have a good panel tonight. Well, about the same panel we have most every time, but it's still a good panel.
Except for
over there we have Leo, and Leo is the head of Everyday Legacy Paranormal. He's also a member of Road Trip Paranormal, and I don't know, do you do the Bigfoot in Kansas thing? No? Okay.
I've been trying, but
Go ahead, sorry.
And then Jason, right next to him, he is the owner of Road Trip Paranormal. He's a member of Everyday Legacy Paranormal, one of the team leads, executives, whatever you want to call him. Man of many hats. He also does Bigfoot in Kansas, and
Goes towards the Wichita.
goes towards Kansas.
Kansas, sorry.
he's a guide for Ghost Tours of Kansas here in Wichita. And then there's Michelle. She is a member of Everyday Legacy Paranormal and Road Trip Paranormal, and Max, who is also a member of Everyday Paranormal and Road Trip Paranormal. How you guys doing this week?
Doing good. You said Everyday Paranormal? For Max.
Everyday Legacy Paranormal.
That's
Sorry.
That's the other guy. That's the other Max.
Yes.
That's the other
We
Max.
don't want to. We don't want to. We don't want to go
Right.
there.
Yeah, no, I'm just giving you grief. I'm doing good. How's everybody else doing on the panel?
Doing alright. It's kind of a quiet weekend finally.
Yeah. Some for
Instead
some.
of- well, yeah, not for you guys, but
Yeah, actually got the weekend off, lucky dog. No, everything's going good. Michelle, how you doing?
Good.
Max from Everyday, how are you doing? Oh, wait,
Doing good every day.
Can't mess up on the
Maybe
show,
you
you know that? No, we're doing good. Tonight is episode number 15 already. It's hard to believe. We're moving fast through the... We started this back in May, and it's just like every weekend we're doing this, and it's fun, and it's great.
amazing,
We get
I
creative
think.
at times, and sometimes we get debative, don't we? So
no, we don't get
We
to.
could do that tonight.
I'm hoping. That's what
I
I'm hoping
can
for
see-
tonight. So,
This one should be a fun one.
which brings us to the point. A couple things. Like always, on the right-hand side is a live chat. You can take part of the show. Ask any question you want answered. We will definitely look into that, or we'll answer you. We'll call you out on air, of course. I'm just playing. Also, you can also phone in live. The phone number is at the very bottom on the screen. It's 316-200-9066. Once again, that's 316-200-9066. Call in with any question you have about tonight's topic, anything you want for us to discuss. Just give us a call. Anything, really. So, Jason, or anybody out there, what are we talking about tonight?
Tonight we are going to dive into one of Max's favorite topics, which is the incident in Roswell. Was there or was there not a UFO crash, or was it just military dummies? And I say that lightly. Sorry.
Watch it now.
And so it begins.
No, just because of the fact of how much controversy is to the whole subject, and how much is it the media playing us? Is it the the citizens of the town? Is it the military playing us? It's got a lot of ins
like
and
an
outs
onion.
to
It
it.
has so
Yeah,
many different layers.
it's definitely one of those that's well, it's like a basis for the X-Files TV show, you know. Mulder's always going after it.
Your favorite?
I love it. I love it.
I want to be Mulder when I grow up.
Gotta grow up first.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, and it's just, there's so much controversy behind it, whether it happened or not, whether what the government said it was. There's some I don't know, but we'll get into some of that here in just a second or two.
But to start off with, how many of you actually believe UFOs?
In UFOs?
UFOs. Is it flying saucers? Is it the black and white photographs you've seen? Is it, you know?
Are we talking about Roswell or are we talking
Yes.
I'm talking about
general.
overall, in general.
Okay.
In general.
I do believe in
Actual little gray men.
UFOs. Yes.
Not
well,
green.
I don't know if they're gray or not, but I
Not
believe
gray.
them.
Not green. Gray.
Let's talk about it. Max, how you feel?
I definitely believe in UFOs or existence of life on other planets, solar systems, things like that. Most definitely.
Leo.
I'd like to think I believe, but I don't. You know, I've never come face to face with one yet, which
Well,
I
neither
never
have I.
that I know of. Of course, we got the lizard people on Earth, so maybe they are here. But yeah, no, I like to think there's something out there. I mean, it's too big of a universe to think not. So, but,
Well, I mean, beyond our galaxy itself, I mean, we're just as fucking dust out there.
Yeah, yeah.
So, scientists are constantly saying, you know, that there is all kinds of livable planets out there beyond just, well, maybe even in our galaxy itself.
right.
So, they keep saying that they keep finding the possibility. I don't know how they're claiming there are. I mean, maybe just from the atmospheric, from telescopes, or if they're getting signals. Who knows how they're suggesting that it is. I mean, maybe because it's the coordinates of where the planet is to the next star to all that.
Yeah.
Is it comparable to Earth? Stuff like that.
Yeah.
So it's a huge story. So.
Right. A couple of things. Also, too, don't forget we're filming in a live, undisclosed, haunted location, so you never know what you're going to hear or see. People at home, so if you hear any voices, chime in and let us know what you heard. I just thought about it, so I heard a little knock over here just a second ago. And second of all, most importantly, where's your green mascot at? You didn't bring it today.
I was just
Of all
thinking the same
episodes to
thing.
bring it.
I did.
No, you're fine. I'm just giving you shit.
I'm sorry. I thought about that as I was getting out of the car.
It's all good.
I live with a little buddy at home.
Definitely. So, and also in the studio, you heard Jeremiah, the voice behind the introduction, and then to his immediate right's Paula, who's off the screen, and she might chime in every now and then with a question or two or a comment. So, well, should we get this party started then, or what?
All right. So how far back do you want to go?
1947.
The beginning. First,
Okay.
there was the Earth, or the Sun, actually.
There was a big
Earth,
bang.
Sun.
So- I always find it fun to look at the timeline of events leading up to such
Right.
major outcome of like Roswell. Do you guys know anything about Kenneth Arnold?
Sounds. Is that the?
You know Kenneth Arnold? No, I don't know him either. But Kenneth Arnold was a pilot.
Yeah.
In June 24th, on June 24th, 1947, he was flying a small propeller plane. I can't talk.
Happens.
He took off in Washington. He'd been in the air for about an hour, not far from Mount Rainier, when he happened to glance out the window. And I'm sure you've all have heard this story. He's glanced out the window, and what he thinks he sees is what looks like discs shooting across the sky. They're flying in formation. They were shiny, and he witnessed it.
wrong.
And he witnessed it. And it's what's going on?
You have it spelled wrong.
Yeah.
Sorry.
Yeah.
Sorry.
I
he's
just
gonna
said,
want
yeah,
to say
no,
it.
you're good. I just noticed that.
I thought that was alien language for a minute there. So.
Hey, you know, we can try to pass it off for that.
Yeah. Sorry.
No, you're not.
Where was I?
Mr. Arnold.
Yes.
Flying at
Discs.
Mount Rainier.
Yeah. So anyway, he's flying. He sees discs up there.
We come.
He reports it and that's where the media actually terms the flying saucer phrase comes from. Because he says it looks like dishes flying, skipping across, or
So
saucers
yeah,
flying across,
saucer.
skipping across the
So he
sky.
was officially the first.
Well, the media did.
He's given credit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Being the first person to recognize it anyways.
I mean, the media made it famous by printing it in the paper, but that's how he described it. Now, a lot of people have since tried to debunk that, saying it was just glare from his plane or the clouds, you know.
Right. Solar flare.
And just gas one,
Yeah,
swamp
there you go.
gas, and all that stuff. I always like to think a distinguished pilot actually knows what he's looking at most of the time.
Sure.
Especially up there.
Yeah, and could probably tell the difference if there's an object out there or if there's clouds or however. I mean, you could probably nowadays. Everyone's got an idea and everyone's got to, speak their mind, say what it is. But that's what he said. Now that happened June of 1947, and then.
Just a week later.
Yep, it was July 8th, I believe, is where the incident in Roswell occurs.
July 8, 1947.
Yep.
So it's in July 4th when I got it. Whatever.
Is
July
actually
4th,
the-
but July 8th is when
The
Mac
actual.
Roswell.
Oh yeah. Basically happened 75 miles from Roswell in a place called Corona, and Mr. Mac
Razzle.
They say he's a rancher.
Razzle.
Happened to be out in a sheep pasture and found some debris, some objects that he couldn't describe, or he found out it was unusual to him at the time. So he said he described it as metallic sticks held together with tape, chunks of plastic and foil with reflectors and scraps of a heavy gloss paper-like material. So he decided to call the local Roswell sheriff to come out and inspect.
Now, there was a storm a few days earlier, and that night, and there is claims to the story where he heard what sounded like an explosion off in the distance. Now, whether or
Right.
not that was thunder or a lightning strike or something, but he remembers hearing that. So that's another reason why he wanted to head off.
Yeah.
Once the weather got well enough that he could go out there and do it. But he did go out horseback, I believe,
Mm-hmm.
and saw all that.
Yep. And that's all it was.
I actually believe on that one, he was the one that was actually published in the newspaper.
Yes, he did.
The
Yeah,
way
it was.
his story went, and he said he was very honest, and this is what he found, and this is what happened, and then about 2 weeks later, I believe it was, he recanted. He was like, "Nope, made it up. Leave me alone. Stop calling me. Stop whatever."
Well,
There's speculation of that
It was
too.
also the very next day. I don't remember. Do you remember if the sheriff had contacted local Roswell?
Yeah, he contacted
Airport,
the
right?
sheriff in turn contacted the local base,
Which was close by.
which
yeah.
was the Walker Air Base.
Yeah, and they came out July 9th, and actually July 9th they released a statement saying that the alleged flying saucer was an actual crash weather balloon,
Right.
Yeah.
which I mean,
Well, I look at what they found and the description of what they found. That does not sound like a spacecraft. It sounds more like a balloon of some sort
Right.
to me.
right?
At least that's the description that they want you to hear.
They gave it anyways, yeah.
Because if keep going, I don't want to.
No, you're
overstep
fine. Go
anything.
ahead. You're fine.
Well, it was the military officer that came to see the debris and was out there with Mac Razzle and the sheriff and a few others. It was Jesse Marcel.
Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah.
He's the one who actually collected some of that on his own, and he took it home to his family, where his own son and wife were playing with it. They picked it up. They tried to burn it,
It was
break it.
indestructible.
It was they couldn't
You'd
do
crumple
anything.
it and it'd go.
Yeah, what looked like tinfoil, they crumple in their hand, and it go right back into shape without even a crease.
Couldn't burn
And
it.
it had
break it,
weird
cut it, nothing.
writing on it that he only described it as weird hieroglyphics.
He also said in an interview later on, he was older, but we'll go a little bit more into that story here. He also talked about it was as thin as foil as like what you see in cigarette packs, the lining in there.
Yeah.
But he also at one point said it was also where he couldn't bend it. He said it was not bendable. So I don't know if it was a different section of what he had, And there's a reason why he goes into talking about this again later on. We can kind of go over that detail. You can see some of it right there.
Well,
Not
not
yet on
on
that
that
one.
one. Not on that one
I'll
yet.
let you put it up. Sorry about that.
Do we have any pictures yet of Roswell or anything like that, or anything? Yet?
What kind of picture do you want?
I don't know.
That one on
that's
screen
pretty
looks
cool.
right.
Yeah, that one.
I had that one up just a little bit ago.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's actually what was printed in the
Local
newspaper.
paper, yeah.
Well, that's when they decided to call it a weather balloon.
Yes, definitely.
So, regardless of what Matt Brazel, and after he recanted everything, some even said that he was being escorted by military officers and police inside town, in and out of town, keeping an eye on him. It was Jesse Marcel who wanted to. I mean, he's the one who said, "We have a UFO," and the paper published it. And then it was just a short time after that is when his commanders had called a press conference, just as you see that was up there in this minute.
Yeah.
Remember that's on the
Want me to
picture
do
that
want
was
that
up
back
there.
up? There you go.
Yeah, there it is. That picture's just jumping. That is when they were trying to depict the evidence as nothing but a weather balloon and not a spaceship. It's as you can tell, it looks just like a metallic parachute, basically.
Yeah. Looks like a tarp almost.
And
too,
there
yeah.
is a picture of Jesse Marcel who's on the ground. I think you have that one, where he's on the ground. Jesse Marcel himself sitting on the ground. He's holding it up, and he has that kind of look, like, I don't get this kind of look. It's one of the famous photos of. I thought I sent it
One
to
of the
you.
ones that you sent me? It's not ringing a bell, but
Okay. One thing, they already had the U.S. Armed Forces or the government already had a name for everything that was going on. They had a description of what was going on. They called it Project Mogul. So the testing of high altitude balloons that carried low frequency sound sensors into the tropopause, which is a layer of the Earth's atmosphere. It says that area acts as sound channels. The reason they said they were trying to do this was because they said the government was trying to put like little sensors up into the atmosphere. That way they could eavesdrop on other countries. More importantly, the Soviet Union at the time, who was starting to pose a threat to us after World War II, whatever. With the Cold War starting to
That
early
picture.
stages.
Top second is the one I was talking about.
that
Yeah.
one.
Yeah,
Okay.
Yeah.
I'll get that up there.
Now, how far out did they? I always heard that when they didn't start talking about the actual project until years later, because once they finally said it was a balloon, weather balloon, the story died off.
Yeah. Well, they were more towards, they're trying to eavesdrop on, like I said, Russia, the Soviet Union at the time.
Yeah.
They're trying to do nuclear tests to see if they can hear anything they were trying to pick up frequency-wise. Which, at that point, let's go real quick here. I know this is kind of related. We had a question from somebody at home. That's Michael. Sorry. The question is, it kind of ties in with what I just said about the Project Mogul. It says, what do you make of the radio transmission bursts that have been coming periodically from deep space? Like the radio interference of frequencies, the sounds that are don't make any sense.
Those were actually, if I can remember correctly, when that was an actual debate on some of what do you think about this, they contributed to electrical interference that was caused, which is what supposedly caused the weather balloon to crash in the first place, is what I read about it.
But they're still getting those sounds to this day, today. I mean, you'll hear, there's recordings of, the thinking is space should be technically soundless, waveless kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But they're still getting these weird, occurrences of some kind of inhumane sound of some kind of waves, I guess, when you call it, burst of. Have you ever heard those, Jason, or anything like that? I mean, I know.
Yeah.
There's recordings of it, but you can go on the YouTube or Google and find it what they actually sound like.
Right.
They just sound like
The electronic.
It sounds sonar in
Yeah.
a way, and just kind of but it's more like a creaking noise. I can't explain it. I've heard it multiple times.
I've heard
Right.
it described as screeching.
We have different type of noises, though. When I heard very different sounding, so almost like they come from different.
It's like metallic. Almost.
Yeah. Like a
That's what
transformer.
I've heard. It sounds like metallic.
I mean, at the same time, you have to take. You also have to take into consideration that if that is something produced by an alien technology, the big question is, okay, this is what it sounds like to us with our technology, but we probably don't have the technology, the proper technology to translate it into what it is actually supposed to be.
Right.
It
We
could've
only
been
know what
encoded.
we know.
Exactly.
Yeah. And well, we as citizens only know what we know. Who knows what the military or government knows?
Right.
But we don't know what they are doing or planning or working on most of the time. I mean,
Right.
like in that picture, Jesse Marcel's sitting there holding that piece and he's looking up. He was actually brought in to pose with that, to represent it as this is just a weather balloon, when he was like, this isn't what I saw.
Right.
This isn't what I took home.
Right.
Because he, in his mind, and even his son today, believes that it was material not from
Not from this world.
not from this world. But as you can see right there, it looks plain, simple, like a high school project,
Right.
basically. Put together.
Right.
It doesn't even look like to me anything remotely like is that a parachute? What is that? Project Mogul was supposed to have been dummies dropped out of a plane with a
Right.
parachute. What is that? And then they say, oh no, it's a weather balloon. Okay,
Yeah.
you're changing
That's-
your story one too many times here.
Well, but
Because
if
that's
it
Let me
was
not-
get
a
that other
top
picture
secret
up here.
project, they would try to,
They would, yeah.
they would try and pull, deflect it to something else.
Yeah.
Well,
That's
the whole point of them trying to change the story behind it was to not cause mass hysteria across the U.S. and the world for that
Always
matter.
seems to be the excuse.
I mean,
things like
that's how they described everything. They want to make sure that they weren't. Oh, it's just weather balloon.
Oh, yeah.
But
Yeah.
the great conspiracy behind it is the fact that they seem to think otherwise, and there's been quite a few military experts have come out over the years that were part of that incident or involved with it that have said otherwise since then. Even what's his name, Jesse Marcel himself. Right before he died in the 80s, he came out and claimed what I said was fabricated, 100% fabricated. I was told to do it. I was told to take most of it to, I think it was down in Fort Worth, an air base down there. It took 2 hours to get down there, so like you said, maybe he took some of it home. Whatever the case was, it took longer than it should have from that crash site to the air base he was supposed to go to. And by that time, the story was already had been fabricated, and and then some. And that's when they brought it out and said, "Oh, it was just a weather balloon." And he had to go along with it, basically, according to what it made it sound like.
Right. I mean, if you're you're in the military, you take an order, you follow it.
Right.
Yeah.
Of course, yeah.
You have to.
Yep.
I mean, his commander was sitting, in that room at the same time, with orders in his hands, and he's got him down on the ground posing with his, you made the headlines, so fix it.
Right. Yeah. So.
Yeah.
So let's go back to the initial sound then. There was a report of an explosion, which, I mean, yes, crashing sound, but we're making an explosion. However, there's been differing views behind this that there was 2 crashes. The one report I heard that there was a mid-air collision, actually, of some sort. And the thing that was weird is you had the Roswell incident right here. The second one was like 150, I think, miles elsewhere or something around there.
Was it in Arizona or something like that?
I don't remember the exact specific month. You know where it was located at? I know
I'm not sure. I just know
there's eyewitnesses.
retired Colonel, Lieutenant Colonel French, who came out and said, there wasn't just one, there was 2 crashes.
Right.
And he is claiming that back in that time, they were using it was a new type of plane and sonar being on the plane that actually hit out. I guess it would be sonar. It was a burst that took out
Like a wave.
like electricity.
Yeah.
No, like an EMP?
Yes.
Yes.
And it took out the UFO that was up there in the sky, and that's what caused the second crash, possibly the first one.
Right. Well, there was a guy, I should remember off the top of the name, I should have wrote down, sorry, but he claims to have seen actual the second crash. When he got there, because they saw it, him and his grandpa or father or something, they went up to this location, and there was four bodies.
Humanoids.
Yeah, humanoids were looking for. 4 bodies of aliens laid out on the floor, on the grass, gray in nature, long bodies, long fingers, like you see in the picture.
Right.
Kind of the dark black eyes, and 2 of them were already dead at the time, I guess, on the ground. One of them. Sorry, you said something?
I was.
Oh. Yeah, one of them actually lived through the crash.
Yeah, that's what I heard. That
Yeah.
3 of them were dead,
Right.
and one
Yeah.
of them was still.
The third one was
supposedly alive.
I think the third one was alive when he got, or was in the process of dying. The last one actually survived the crash, supposedly, and was actually trying to communicate with them of some sort, but they couldn't obviously understand what it was trying to say.
I even heard reports where some of the officers even stood there and took photographs with it,
Yeah.
where they posed with it for a photograph.
Now, there's a lot of, I guess, stories is a proper word to use in this situation.
Right.
About that group. It was the 509th Operations Group that was actually sent out there to do the crash inspection, haul away, whatever it was they were hauling away, and the bodies as well.
Right. But laughing at Jeremiah behind the scenes. Sorry.
Do what?
Just laughing at you with your pulling up. This was also what, in turn, created the whole Area 51, because supposedly the bodies that were remaining, or the bodies themselves, were supposedly taken to Area 51, some odd hundreds of miles away.
Right.
And, go ahead, sorry.
Well, don't forget that, when the military came in and grabbed everything, they headed off to Walker Air Force Base.
Right.
And that's where the frenzy really began, because even the citizens remembered seeing how the base that night was just lit up, and there's so many cars and trucks moving in and out, and everybody seemed to be on alert with, all security and all police were out there.
Yeah.
What was so important that night, following this incident, that it needed that much guard and guarding with the weather balloon drop.
And not to mention the Roswell Area Air Force Base closed down a week and a half later, I believe it was, where they totally shut down operations and moved it.
Walker Air Force Base?
You said
I believe it was
Roswell?
Huh?
Walker or Roswell? What did you say?
Walker
There's
is
the
closed in the
Roswell-
60s.
Roswell Area Air Force Base. Well, there was one. I can't remember exactly where they said it was, but it was the outskirts of town, right on the border of Chavez County, that had supposedly had something to do with it and was shut down within like 2 weeks later, due to something not being able to function. Like something was wrong with it, so they had to move.
Well, with the Air Force Base, Walker Air Force Base that night, there's a lot of stories that come with what people were seeing on the trucks. They were seeing, you've heard these stories, haven't you? Yeah. I'm trying to get you involved here.
Well, see, I'm on the opposite side, because I'm thinking, okay, well, if a top secret thing crashed, yeah, there would be a lot of activity. So go ahead.
I'm saying, how could it be just a
Sorry. Thought I had that shut off.
I'm just saying how can it be such a big deal if it was just a weather balloon or dummies falling from the sky? Really,
Well, it was a top secret.
You should only need one truck, one little group of police, grab it, and go. But instead, you've got a whole base that's lit up, armed to the gills that night, trucks moving in and out with different objects and people moving out, and not to mention there's a story of a mortician that was called.
Well, we have all these stories, we have no proof.
There's a lot of eyewitnesses.
All this evidence is.
Oh, you have eyewitnesses. You have eyewitnesses galore.
But
who've
you
come
can't
out.
trust always. You can't always trust
Well, you
eyewitnesses.
can't always trust the military either.
Well, I'm not saying.
And every single thing they say, oh, it was just a weather balloon. You're mistaken. Forget the fact that you had more.
All these
more
people,
call.
everybody had hands on, all this stuff, and there's not been one piece of evidence that somebody has brought to light. Somebody has walked in and said, "Here's a piece of an alien," or "Here's a piece of the ship."
Well, actually, there has been, but they've been discredited by people saying, "No, you're absolutely lying," because the government went lying. I mean, there's been countless books written about it, countless interviews that have been told, actual pieces of this supposable crash, and everyone's like, "No, can't be."
But I don't believe that, because I think if you had an actual piece of a spacecraft, that you would take it to, I'm not talking about the government, you take it to a private scientific, somebody would say, this is not of this earth. And because it'd be worth millions.
Wasn't there a story going along with that? Wasn't there a story of some sort of chemical that was found on that debris that has been claimed that it was not from our atmosphere, was not from this planet?
I've heard that report too. But again,
but I mean, she's
right.
It would be worth millions.
Yeah. And where is it?
Right.
But then again, we've already talked about the Men in Black. Maybe they said that.
Damn you, Will Smith.
No, I'm just saying.
I mean,
think about how it transpired. You have a crash. Sheriff calls into the military. They go out there. They see it. It leaks that it's a crash. Military immediately comes in and clears the area. They go in and block out that whole area and ranch.
So wasn't
They
it top
block it out.
secret? I mean, what they were testing was top secret.
So they say afterwards. We have no idea what they were testing really. It was just a weather balloon at first. For years, it was just a weather.
Well,
balloon.
that's because they were deflecting off what it really was, the top secret.
Because they even came back and said that it was nuclear testing that they were trying to do.
I mean, that's like if the government told me that, Bigfoot's nothing but a bunny.
I believe.
And everybody's just going to go, okay. I can't actually take it as, well, have you heard things out in the woods at night? That scares the crap out of
I've
you.
seen a bunny.
Yeah. A bunny sounds like something huge crashing through.
Yeah, baby.
But anyway, I understand that, you don't want to believe anything, what people say or claim, but look at and you're frowning at me, I know. My comment is, because you're always wanting to say the opposite of, you can't take anybody's word for it. Well, I can't take the military's word for it. That it was just dummies being dropped from a plane or a weather balloon up in the sky. That's just us rolling over and saying, okay.
But I don't believe that it's always a government conspiracy.
Well, it was definitely military.
I don't.
It was definitely military.
And what do they have? I mean,
Okay.
if they have this, then they gain technology, right? They
Oh,
look at
and let me go to that.
Before you go to
Okay, before we move on, I'm
Yes,
putting
sir.
up a picture. Now, I don't know. I just pulled this off of Google.
I
I
did
don't
see
know how
that. I've seen
credible
that
it
before,
is,
yeah.
but this is a document that was allegedly released after the Freedom of Information Act, and it talks about other pictures. This one is very cropped, but other pictures I saw of this on Google had a United States government header on the document itself.
Yeah,
This talks about 3 separate UFO crashes in which saucers were recovered in each one, or crafts were recovered in each one. Each one contained 3 bodies dressed in a metallic and yes, and then but it also one of the excerpts I read in one of the articles talked about the locations being Roswell, Horse Springs, and Aztec. So have you heard anything about those other two locations, Horse Springs and Aztec?
Just hearsay,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it seems like it pops up all the time, that there's more than one site, that happens.
Supposedly
Right.
the Aztec one was a hoax, supposedly.
Well,
That's what they say, but
okay. Well, I don't know. This is just what I pulled off of Google in about 30 seconds. I have no idea how credible this is. I talked about that a while ago, but
Well, there's even people who have, if you see the person in charge near Jesse Marcel, and he's squatting down there with him, and he's got the sheet of paper in his hand. There's been people who have actually zoomed in on that, cleared it up as much as they could, and flipped it. And it even says on there something about bodies and such.
oh wow.
Yeah. Whether that's all true, I don't know. Again, that's people zooming in and trying to look at it. But at one point, the paper folds over and bends over his hand as he's looking at the material with Jesse Marcel. That's the paper in question there that he's going to post up here in a second. We've had it up already once. But people have dedicated their lives to trying to see what they can pick out of photographs and find details, and they've zoomed in on that paper, and supposedly there's like high alert, taking crash site to such and such, bodies are taking to such and such. I mean, there's all these things that are mentioned and nothing about weather balloons. I mean,
Right.
This was like a very fast-paced, let's get this going, let's sell this story, let's move it,
Right.
and get it out. As soon as they had him pose with all this debris, it died.
Mhm.
And they ended up moving on with, it was just a weather balloon, there's no bodies.
Right.
Until more stories started coming out. Well, do you remember that night at the base? Why was it all crazy that night? What was going on?
Right.
Were they covering it up?
Right. And then
And
there's the oh gosh, what was that? The incident with there was a nurse at
Yes.
a
That
hospital.
supposedly
Yes.
disappeared.
Yes.
Yeah, I don't remember the specifics of it, but
Oh, yeah.
go ahead. Go
You know? I know.
Oh yeah, I do.
Okay.
ahead.
You go
So,
ahead if you want to.
I watched a video about this at
There's
the
a
UFO
documentary,
museum at Roswell.
there's
So,
also a documentary that came out. It was like a 4-part special or something like that. And supposedly this elderly gentleman was doing an interview, and he says that, he married the love of his life, and she just happened to be a nurse that worked on the base. And the night of that accident, he got a phone call from her. She went to a payphone, called him, and she was freaking out because while she was delivering supplies into one of the operating rooms, she ran into a couple of the doctors and a body, and it freaked her out, and she left. So she called her husband, and she's like, I'll be home as soon as I can. And it's been how many years now, and she
Right.
still hasn't come home.
Right.
Wow.
He tried to get the police involved, and they looked up her records, and supposedly that person never existed. Everything about her life has been wiped clean. There's no documentation of her anywhere, and he's sitting here claiming, like, I've been married to this woman, I know she exists.
right.
So, I mean,
Wow.
even for me, that sounds a little bit extravagant.
Yeah, I mean, because how you've got neighbors that she went to school with people. I mean, how you can't erase her memory from everybody. That
But,
she-
you
One
know,
of those red light things.
yeah, yes.
And it's like,
Will Smith again.
No, I mean, but if you think about it back then, like,
It was 1947.
yeah, you didn't have Facebook, so you could have been like, but I know Michelle, she ain't gone. I know her. There's no way. But who's gonna actually know? Like, who knows? They could have lived in the
News
middle
didn't
of
travel
nowhere.
that fast, unless you report it.
But
in the
did he
papers.
have people that would have? I'm sure she probably had family members, like I said,
I
friends,
asked the
the
same thing,
neighbors.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, these are.
But we don't know-
I'm
but
just
we don't
asking
know
a
the-
question. I'm
No,
just
Well, we
asking.
don't know the story. They may have tracked it. There may be an even bigger story to that. They may have her friends and neighbors saying, "I've never seen her since." Who knows? But you know, and from 1947, they're all gone.
Yeah.
So the story pretty much,
Is gone.
but you still have that story that circulates that, you know, she was there, she saw it, and she made the phone call, but then you also have the mortician that was called from the military base asking for 4 child-sized coffins.
Mhm.
How fast can you make them? How fast can you get them to Walker Air Force Base? And he's like, oh my God, you know, what happened?
Right.
You know, children.
But why would they wouldn't have put them in coffins that soon, though. They would have wanted to study them, wouldn't they have?
Well, they're not going to want. They're not
I
going to
don't
want
know
to.
what they want.
That chances of that Air Force base out in BFE, New Mexico is. I grew up 2 hours from Roswell. There is nothing out there, and chances of that Air Force base being equipped to handle that kind of an autopsy or procedure. I mean,
Are you talking about Walker or the Army airfield?
Just out and around Roswell,
whichever one the mortician went to.
Right.
I mean, any of it out there is. There's nothing around there, guys. I mean, they have Amarillo had the Pantex plant, but that's 2 hours the other way from where I grew up. You know, there's 4 hours difference between Amarillo and Roswell at least.
Right.
So, you know,
They could put them in the coffin. You're saying they could put them in the coffin and ship them somewhere to do the autopsy.
Area 51,
Yeah.
NORAD, whatever.
I think they-
Get them out as fast as possible.
I can understand. I
Yeah.
can.
Especially, I mean, and if they were working on one in the operating room, then maybe they were trying to figure out how to save the one that was dying, supposedly, you know, from what was being seen.
You also have.
There's also reports of missing, other than that one nurse, missing nurses that have stumbled upon. There's one of the story where a lady went in, happened to be opening the door, and happened to see the famous autopsy.
Yeah.
So she saw decomposed body on the table, one of them, and then was still in full intact. And she said it gave off the most unusual stench she's ever smells. And of course, she comes up missing. So maybe she saw too much. I mean, I don't know, but
Yeah, well, see, this is how
It's
can
all
all these
hearsay.
people just go missing and nobody?
Because it does happen.
Well, it does.
It does happen, because we're going to be talking about another incident
Look
in
at
the
Diddy
future.
Cooper.
In the future, that deals with how
Okay.
quickly people can disappear after witnessing something.
I mean,
Well,
Diddy Cooper.
but it was very suspicious.
There
Well,
was,
it should have
but
been,
yeah,
yeah.
it should have.
it should have been. But at the same token, then why to this day do they still have Area 51? Why do they take whoever works there has to go in basically blindfolded?
You have to be
They
flown
picked up,
in.
to a certain spot. They go in on buses that are windows to the inside and out. If there's something crazy, whatever, you can't see in. Yeah.
So
why?
this is supposedly an actual photograph taken from a film of the autopsy of the alien. Now, this was like broadcast everywhere. I mean, it was on documentaries like crazy. And it was, I think, 2020, and everybody was looking at this. The actual video footage. Have you ever watched it?
I think years ago.
Yeah.
I don't remember.
It's a little. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know if I. You know.
Well, that's what Michael asked a question earlier. He had another question about. He's like, with all the videos you see online on YouTube and stuff like that, have we ever, any of us, seen one that's credible? I mean,
It's hard.
Of like,
just aliens
It's hard.
themselves, or
Abductions or
I mean,
crafts.
yeah.
So much today, especially like right now, can be CGI'd and
Mhm.
fixed.
Right.
Now that video came out back in like late '90s.
yeah, I think
Something
the
like
first
that.
time, the first time I saw anything about the alien autopsy videos was early 2000s, but
Yeah.
that was when
Internet was still kind of
yeah, I was not really into the whole alien thing and,
Right,
and UFO thing until 2010 or after.
Yeah.
So
Now the
Really?
footage did
Mhm.
catch. I think there was like 2 or 3 doctors in there performing. They were cutting.
mhm.
There's even photographs of them dissecting the entire upper part of the leg. it's pretty graphic, really.
Yeah.
But you know, it's, I don't know. I never heard what they made out of from the autopsy. You know, how much of it was. Now, the famous nurse that disappeared. I heard the story that when she, at least one of the nurses, I don't know how many nurses, who disappeared or whatever, but I remember one story of a nurse meeting her friend, I think it was the mortician, over at a diner, and she was very upset, crying, and she drew on a napkin what the images of the aliens looked like.
Oh,
and
let me put that up right here.
Yeah.
From his napkin drawing.
Yeah, the infamous napkin drawing.
Yeah.
And we'll get that up here in just a second. But for back then and what it was going on, the details of the face and the fingers and everything are, it's different. And you'll see it here in a second. But as
That's the one you're looking at, right?
Yes, sir. Yeah.
Yeah.
See, as you can see, it's skinny arms. You got the big eyes, slits for noses.
Elongated head.
You can barely see any ear, and at the top, I don't know if you can see the fingertips. I think the fingertips are cut off in the photo. But they have little markings on the fingertips on the upper part on that hand that's facing. Yeah. There
Oh.
you go.
I didn't
Here,
get
just a
recited good. Sorry, guys.
But this is supposedly an actual drawing of what they look like, what people were witnessing. And the fingertips had little weird markings on them. But it looks a little different from what the autopsy video showed. But
So she wasn't an artist, guys.
no.
Trying to see if I can resize it to get a better view
Yeah, I heard
of
they were
that.
suction
That's
cup
actually not
looking.
bad, Jeremiah. Oh, you come off the fingertips and stuff?
Yeah.
I see.
I mean, how many books have been written about this subject from supposable, I was there, eyewitnesses?
Right.
I mean, you have one of the colonels that was in the 509th that on his deathbed says, told this story to whoever, and said he couldn't say anything for fear of death of his family.
Right.
And who's to say the military wasn't doing that to people?
I believe
back
the
then,
mafia can do it. I believe that the government can do it.
It was not that big of an area at the time. It was 1947. What's that?
Oh, sorry.
In 1947. So it was possible for them to go and bully,
Right.
threat. Back then, we just got done with war. You don't know what everybody's capable of doing
Well,
at the time.
that's the whole other thing is that we're fresh out of war, a war that we won, and the pride and morale is way up, and so there's a lot of patriotism going around. So someone from the military comes to you and says, "This is your duty. You must keep this quiet." What are you gonna do? And that. And then if you challenge and push back,
I think if
What are you
somebody
gonna
could
do?
make money off of it, they would have. I think that if they could have any proof and made money off of it, they would.
Yeah, I still remember
I agree with
the
that.
time, though.
Yeah.
The time frame was in 1947 when all this started, this phenomenon.
Yeah.
What was available technology-wise, you haven't got to that part yet.
Right.
But what was available to them to even have proof really? On the band Polaroids readily, available to them, to the public anyways, or video cameras for that matter. It was kind of a luxury that they did. It was high-end cost-wise. So maybe that's why there's not so much evidence. I don't know. I'm just
I don't
spitballing
either.
here.
I'm just throwing things out,
Yeah.
questions that pop into my head.
Right.
If it was a weather balloon and it failed or
Was hit by lightning.
hit by
because,
lightning or
you know,
whatever it
it's
was,
not going to be a weather
did they do it
balloon.
again? I mean, we knew about it at that point. When did they say, hey guys, we're going to try again so you guys don't freak out?
That's the
when it
thing.
happens?
You don't see the sky littered with weather balloons like even afterwards or before.
Yeah.
I don't remember them doing. I mean, I know they tested and they had those, but people, oh look at that. It wasn't a big deal. This happened to make a big controversy.
And I still, it doesn't make sense to me to make that big of a ruckus over a weather balloon, even if it had top secret technology. You're going to want to keep it as quiet as possible.
Right.
And just deal with the people that have first-hand knowledge rather than making a big,
But they could have just told Mac Brazel right there, no, that's just a weather balloon.
Mhm.
Just,
Exactly.
let's clean this up and get it out of here.
Right.
But instead, the whole base goes on lockdown.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, you
You have
read
one.
accounts. Even people that weren't involved. The UFO museum down there is full of accounts of people that weren't even involved directly in any way, form, or fashion. But I mean that town was like a military zone, and that area was a fully militarized zone for that whole thing. Why?
And don't forget that the story died off after they finally announced it was weather balloon. It just died off. People stopped talking about it. But
Right.
it still had researchers who continued to say, this and this didn't make sense.
Mm-hmm.
And they dug deeper, and they dug deeper, and
Right.
they interviewed, and they met people, and they hear the stories, and that's what researchers do. I mean, that's what we do.
Mm-hmm.
We hear somebody tell us a story, oh, my house is on it. Okay. Tell us, what's going on with it, And you have to do the research on it. That's what all these people were doing back then, too.
Exactly.
Doing the research, and it wasn't until how many years? 20, 30 years later?
They didn't have the
When-
resources anywhere close
Yeah.
to the resources that we do now.
Yeah, and it was, I think, 30 years later is when all the UFO fanatics went crazy with the idea of...
Michael says, or the Men in Black.
Yeah.
But yeah, that about 30 years later is when they finally brought everything to light, like saying, hey, I think there's more to it than just
Yeah.
a down weather balloon. And that's when the military goes, oh, sorry, that was a top secret operation called Mogul.
Mm-hmm.
And where we were just dumping out we were just randomly flying over and dumping out
Test dummies.
test dummies, thank you, with parachutes. And that's what you found all scattered out there because,
They
that
should've
made
just used
sense.
potatoes.
You would have seen, why couldn't they have just picked up the dummy head and say, oh, I'm sorry, let me get this all
Well,
out here.
that brings a good point up. Jesse Marcel, one of the first people out there, one of the guys that were in charge,
Right.
he claims that the ground was littered with all kinds of debris.
Mhm.
Not just, this big gigantic tarp-looking thing, that's all we found.
Metal
He said there was
fragments.
fragments everywhere. He even said on video, he said, we picked up as much as we could because there was just so much of it everywhere. He didn't once mentioned any crash test dummies. That's what it looked like to me. He never mentioned anything like that, He mentioned nothing but this metallic foil material that was unusual.
Okay, but they're not saying they saw an actual spacecraft.
No, not them physically. They never came out and said it was a flying saucer or anything like that. They just said the debris of it.
Yeah, wreckage.
Yeah, that's
Wreckage of.
So it
debris
would've-
field.
Right.
But it looks like if it had been a spaceship of some kind,
Could have been.
there would have been bigger pieces than.
Could have been, but planes don't even have that sometimes. Sometimes when planes hit,
With the heat
They
and
just-
everything else.
it scatters. It
Well,
blows and just scatters everywhere.
But there's big chunks.
But there are sometimes, unless you're, looking at.
Well, this is a specialized unknown substance, metallic substance there that they call it. Maybe it's
Maybe
the same
it's
impactor.
There was also
Or same-
symbols that they found
Yeah,
out.
the
by
hieroglyphics and
yeah.
stuff like that.
But actually, not only on the materials themselves, but in the surrounding areas. He had one pulled up not too long ago where it was next to the alien. It looked like two moons and some circles. They found that in quite a few different locations, starting from there and going out into even different states. Some of them, they're like, oh, they're just crop circles, it's nothing, but...
Well,
Mike has a question.
Yeah, saw that.
What was your take on the Fourth Kind movie / documentary?
for one, I can't find any information to say that the movie was actually real. I've tried even looking up the supposed doctor in the movie. I love the movie. It freaked me out. Because, I mean, aliens coming into, looking into your window. Have you seen the movie? Oh, my God.
It's
Okay.
I like it.
You got
Give it right there.
Have you?
I have it. I'll let you borrow
Have
it.
you followed?
Okay.
We should watch it late at night.
Yeah, late at night.
By yourself,
No.
with your animals.
The movie itself.
If I can be by myself after listening to the exorcism part, then nothing's going to
That's a
bother
good
me.
I don't know you,
That
but
was
you probably
so
you
like
guys
my
could
favorite
have
episode.
put together as far as I know.
That's it, guys. Next week, we're having a
Did you
big
go home
night.
to sleep that night?
Yeah,
Did you?
no problem.
Okay.
But
Go ahead.
you've seen the Fourth Kind, right? No. Oh,
No,
okay.
we've discussed it though. You and I have.
I have.
Excuse me. So, it's a movie. Supposedly, you have the movie. At certain points of it, you have, especially when it starts going down to the moment that they're getting to, it has the movie screen splits, and you have the actors doing the scene, and then you have actual video footage of what's happening. Now,
Like kind of like a flashback. but
you
actual
can't.
footage.
Right now, I cannot find any evidence to it on the web, because everything on the web's true.
Sure.
But the movie is the story is a psychologist takes over her husband's cases, and she starts figuring out that all the patients, because her husband has passed away, and all of her husband's patients were having the same thing happen, where they were seeing an owl outside their bedroom, and then they get focused on the eyes. The eyes are getting bigger, it's getting closer, and then, oh no, they're inside. And it all happened up in Alaska. And it basically is, what they were seeing was huge eyes, was alien, not an owl. But when the movie depicts it all and you see the owl and all that, oh, it's freaky.
See, I always kind of contributed that back to the Mothman too, and just
Sure.
True.
I mean, who knows?
Right.
Maybe it was a rogue alien trying to tell everybody, hey, your bridge is about ready to fall.
Yeah, could be.
But the Fourth Kind, it was I think it was a pretty good depiction of abduction, especially when she uses her recorder and she's talking late at night at her house and she's going over her case and she falls asleep. Now we all know you have your recorder going all night long, and then you go back and play it, and oh my God, you don't know what you just found.
Right.
Something was in your room or talking with you or something like that.
Yeah.
Right.
And that's what happens in one scene. She gives the recorder to her assistant to say, hey, go dictate all this. Her assistant comes back about 10 minutes later and says, I'm never doing that again, get that away from me. She runs off. She goes back and plays it, and you hear something in a strange voice in a different language coming into her room and taking her while she's screaming and fighting for her life. But she has no idea of the incident until she goes back to her house and she sees the claw marks on her floor where she's actually being dragged herself, and she notices under her fingernails the floor. I don't know. It's a cool movie. It freaked me out, but
More importantly, I didn't mean the joke.
good.
More importantly,
Sorry.
Shit.
That's all I care about. Sorry, go ahead. Continue.
But what'd you take of that for the alien abduction part?
I never had heard any of that story. So supposedly it's based on true. Is it based on a true story
It's
or
supposed-
true events or
Yes.
That's how the tagline
Basically.
states.
whatever? I don't know. I never had heard anything about that story until then.
Yeah.
Right.
Me neither.
The movie itself was, it was a good thriller, but I don't know when you actually go back and what little bits you can find on the internet about that whole thing, I don't know.
Right. It's probably all fabrication.
Yeah.
All.
Yeah.
Right.
But taking back into that, there is a lot of depending on how closely you want to look at it, there's a lot of evidence that you could what am I trying to say?
I don't know.
People speculate.
That's why I was laughing.
Or that you've heard other stories like
Well,
fire in the sky.
there are a lot of other abductees.
Right. There's other similar
abduction
stories too,
cases and
yeah.
stuff like
with,
that.
with his friends and the
Yeah, Fire in the Sky.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah. Travis Walton and his and the Lumber Crew. I
Yeah.
love that movie.
Mhm.
It's the abduction is. I mean, when they all passed the polygraph, he didn't take any money for the story for years until he finally wrote a book about it. Like
Right.
years later. You've heard of that one, right?
Oh, yeah, I saw that one.
I love that one.
Yeah, I saw that one.
Yes, John. Oh, sorry.
No, go ahead.
You got the Hill case.
Yeah, Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah, I saw that
That
one.
one to me is one of the most credible stories I've ever heard, besides Travis Walton's.
Right.
Those
Those two.
Yeah.
yeah.
They've never been able to prove or disprove.
If anyone wants to hear that story, we did if you don't know about it, there's an episode that
Yes.
Kind of
Like
Three,
2,
five,
5,
four,
yeah, so
five.
it's
Right,
all
yeah.
the time ago.
So yeah, those stories are on there.
Yeah, Travis Walton, Betty and Barney Hill.
Yeah.
Two
It's probably
amazing
more,
cases.
It's probably
Yeah.
more out there than
But yeah,
those
Betty,
two seem incredible.
Betty and Barney Hill, that one also tripped me out, with,
Yeah.
especially when he's looking through the binoculars
Right.
at the craft because they saw something land as they're traveling.
Right.
But knowing that he could see them, then all of a sudden they turn and look in his direction as if, we know you're there.
Right.
Yeah.
And so that's what made him run back to the car.
Yeah.
I think they actually have her dress in a museum, and they tested it recently for radiation,
Oh yeah.
and it actually picked up on radiation.
You know, these
Wow.
Yeah.
That's interesting.
I mean, it takes, 10 years for radiation to start depleting?
it depends on the type of radiation
10
and
years,
the
20
source
years, yeah.
material, but yeah.
Depends on how heavy, like,
Yeah. That's true.
But anyway, yeah, I mean, you have a lot that's going on back in the 40s, 50s of all this, the UFO craze, basically. And this is like people, coming forward, telling their stories, being believed or not believed or anything like that. There's her picture.
Yeah.
Yeah. He's going for it. Yes.
Analysis of it.
Did they?
That's what I was trying to
I think they did.
dive through real quick here to figure out.
Sorry guys, we're looking at Betty and Barney Hill right now.
I'll have it up for you in just a second.
That's the picture I was talking about with the
The stone.
yeah. They found that like drawn on the ground, like in the sand. They found it in cornfields.
It looks like one of the cornfield crop circles.
Yeah.
That you see today.
I believe that actual stone is actually in the UFO museum in Roswell, if I'm not mistaken, or another museum.
I don't remember seeing that, but I saw a lot of stuff that day. So
I believe that that stone that they're actually talking about, they claim is not from Earth. I think that's whatever. Do you remember reading about that, where the stone is actually from?
I do remember. Oh gosh, what was it? Yeah, there was in fact there were several exhibits. I don't remember them having the actual stone. But there were several exhibits that did have well, I might as well just go ahead and throw that one up right quick. Not that one.
Well, while
There it
looking-
is.
While you're looking for that, are you gonna say something?
We're gonna look at the stone real quick.
Michael says are there signs to look out for when alien activity is starting in your area? Do you have any?
To be honest, I don't know much about any alien activity. I haven't heard of anybody in this area with any stories.
What about Jason and Grant? When they were doing their investigation.
Jason and Grant,
That's
yes.
the ghost hunters, DAPS, who when they first started getting started.
Their second book
Yeah.
that came out, they have a story doing a house out in New Hampshire that it was supposed to have been a haunting going
Right.
on. Do you want to?
No, go ahead. No, you can talk more about that.
I love this story just because.
No, get into the building.
Yeah, because when I read this story, it actually I had to put the book down because after I read what I just read,
Yeah.
if it's true, Jason and Grant were doing a house out in New Hampshire. The husband and wife and their daughter were having all kinds of activity. Now they were living in a house that was their dream house, out in the woods.
Right.
Yeah, far away from everyone. They were seeing lights. They were seeing little children in the house. They're having horrible nightmares. All this. So Jason and Grant decided to, do their thing. And it was just when Jason and Grant were just Jason and Grant. They didn't have their show. They didn't have a huge team. They drove out to New Hampshire. They set up their gear. They were told that sometimes they could hear what sounds like dragging outside. The windows happen to open and close. They don't all this weird stuff. So they're honestly thinking it's a haunting. Have you read this? Yeah. So they set up their cameras. They did their thing. That night they heard dragging.
Right.
So they ran outside to see if they could see anything.
Wasn't it also around a certain time every single time?
Around a certain time.
Yeah.
I forget what time it was, but it was late at night.
Yeah.
Past bedtime. They're all in bed. That's when they heard the daughter cry. When they make it back inside, that's when they see her basically just covering her face and screaming no, 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 and they couldn't figure out what was going on.
Right.
So they go back to the hotel, they go over all the evidence and everything, and that's when they notice on one of the cameras that they have is looking out toward, it's a sliding glass door, and there's a window, and they see a face pop up in the window looking in. And that's when they both are looking at each other going, is that what I think it is? And they said that looked just like one of the typical gray alien with eyes.
Right.
And then it came down from the window and then walked across in front of the sliding doors. And they saw it. And they caught it on video. That's what they're watching. So if they did that, then they have actual proof.
Right.
Or at least
or imagery of something
imagery,
that represents possible alien life form.
Now they, themselves, it was beyond their research or anything like that, so they passed it on to a friend of theirs that actually knew more about alien abductions and UFOs, so they passed the case off to them. But from what they said, it was an ongoing case.
So nothing's been ever decided about it.
No, I mean that's where their story ended.
Yeah.
But they did it twice. They caught the same thing twice. So, and just like that, the family didn't even know anything was going on. They had to sit down and break the news to them. This is not hauntings. This is something a little bit beyond our realm.
Imagine having that conversation. I'm glad we've never had to have that conversation with family.
Well, I kind of want to.
I didn't be all for it.
I kind of do. I don't want it at my house, but I
thought we were gonna have to have a similar kind of conversation just on Friday.
Right. Well, I thought that conversation was gonna. Personally, I thought that conversation was gonna be more of a.
Sorry about your luck kind of thing.
Yeah, let's get you back on your meds type of thing.
Yeah.
But I think it ended up not. I think it ended up not quite going that way for me anyway.
Good question.
So.
Go ahead. Got another question?
Yeah, Michael, which before it was here, he should definitely get a shirt with this. How many questions this guy
Yeah,
has.
that's my question. So thank you.
How do you best differentiate the difference between alien encounter and a spirit encounter? A lot of what I hear can easily be mistaken for ghost poltergeist activity. I think
I think the best answer to that question is going to be just like what we were talking about with the case that Jason and Grant did.
Right.
If you hear of someone or know someone that is going through any kind of activity like that, encourage them to reach out to a team like ours or any credible team,
Yeah.
and just go through the process of getting. Did you hear something?
I didn't hear stuff.
No. Go through the process of getting that, because
Because what it could be, I mean, we could set up and try to capture everything we could.
Mhm.
Whether it's a 2-day event or a 3-day, but you have to look at all the evidence of everything. Is it lights coming from inside the house or is it lights coming from outside the house?
Right.
Is it reflection? Is it?
exactly.
But
I definitely think this would definitely tie back into what you guys experienced in Oklahoma.
that's all I was going to mention. We saw what they described as UFO lights on
Right.
the property, and we encountered multiple times some kind of light
Mhm.
that was glowing.
Jason's glow sticks.
I swear it was just glow sticks that night, and
Yeah.
they were
Yeah.
balls of light that were bright as can be on the property. And we also saw the one in the cemetery, which I don't know if they were dead or not.
Right.
Nobody here witnessed this ever since he wasn't part of the team yet. But I mean, everybody else had seen him, and
Maybe one day.
I mean, in various spots, different locations. I mean,
Right.
what we saw was I've never seen anywhere else,
Mhm.
to my knowledge.
Right.
And I think you seen him recently, possibly,
I-
or something of that nature.
Oh no, I'm just
I need
I'm
that.
still looking at the field here.
Sorry, got caught up in the conversation. I think, I saw some, what I would term as, was something that appeared to be a ghost light. I've only been to this location once,
Right.
one night. I am actually planning on going back to that location here, I think in about 2 weeks. So I'm going to be keeping an eye out, just to see. But I will say, back to the Oklahoma location, the first time that me and Brandon Callahan went down there,
Mm-hmm.
we did witness some something, and it was way up,
Sure.
but it was lights flying that it was a very erratic pattern.
Mhm.
Yeah, it just didn't look like a plane. I'm not an expert. I've never been a UFO researcher or investigator or anything like that. But
You're
it,
kidding.
Well, I mean, the government always said, "Oh, it's just an airplane. It's a
Right.
weather or it's a satellite out in space." But
Right.
satellites don't have erratic patterns like
Right.
you just described right there. They
Yeah,
usually
they're in
follow.
orbit.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
follow the
Yeah, right.
rotation. But
Right,
sorry.
and I told you last year, right?
Yes.
Nicole and I, my wife, we were actually out stargazing, and we saw just south of Wichita. It was a clear night, and we saw something that looked like it was rocking back and forth, and it was if it was staying still, you'd think it was just a star.
Mhm.
But it was rocking back and forth, and then it shot down, came over here, came back over in a triangle shape, and it did this over and over again in the sky. And I finally nudged her and I said, "Are you seeing this?" And she goes, "Oh yeah, I'm looking right at it." But she was looking over here. There's 2 of them doing the same
Whoa.
thing up in the sky. And we sat there forever. Finally, we were just tired. I was like, "Let's go home." But
Mhm.
I mean, it was just happening over and over. And you can tell that satellites don't do that.
Right.
Planes, helicopters, nothing like that happens.
How long ago was this?
That's it.
Oh, this is probably good 10 years ago.
So
Right.
before drones. Like our
Oh yeah, I mean, like I said, if it was sitting still, it would look just like a star. It blended in, but it was moving back and forth, and then it shot down over and up.
Where were you at? You remember if
Yeah. Oh, I can drive you right to the dirt road
Roughly around here.
that's south of Wichita.
Okay.
Nicole says she was about to text you and tell you that. Jeremiah, can you look up a picture, Melbourne, Florida UFO?
I will see what I can
What
find.
were you gonna say?
Well, kind of going back to what we were talking about,
Yes.
things in the sky. What Michael's question was about videos on YouTube and stuff like that. There is NASA released a video of Russian space, Russian astronauts working on a space station, and the guy has a GoPro attached to him, or he has it in his hand because he fumbles it when he sees what he sees. There's 3 debris-shaped things below. I mean, of course, not close by, within distance that it can be picked up on his GoPro. And these things are moving around in erratic patterns. Some people probably would say it's space debris, as people have said in the past, but the fact that these things are moving and they shoot away and they go different directions. Now, it could have been CGI, of course.
Right.
But,
Yeah.
I mean, it was a Russian astronaut that's supposed to be trusted, up there, and there's 2 of them out there actually during this pattern that they worked. It really dropped his GoPro to start with. He's like, fumbled it. He's like, holy crap, what did I just say? And eventually he caught it and refocused, and they were still there, and then they just take off.
Right.
There's 3 of them. I was going to give them that video, but I think tied it off. I only did, but
So Michael asked a question a little bit ago about if we saw any of the YouTube videos, if we thought they were credible or not.
right.
And I commented back to him that the only one that I've seen on the internet that I believe in is one I've actually seen with my own eyes. The picture that Jeremiah is about to put up is it was probably about 3:30 in the morning. I was outside smoking a cigarette, and I just happened to see this. It looked like a gas in the shape of a teardrop, and it ended up making the news and everything else
Mm-hmm.
the next day.
I remember when this first hit YouTube.
Yeah. That was
Actually, Brandon Callahan's brother posted a video of this, or shared shared the video of this. Courtney.
Yeah.
He shared the video of this, and that is.
I saw that too, and you said that.
That was the first time I ever saw it. That's.
Yeah, I remember seeing that picture somewhere.
Yeah, that was literally right out my front door.
Now, could have been something like, I'm not trying to get into a political debate or anything, but the whole chemtrail thing with the government supposedly
I don't know.
could have been something of that nature.
That or it could be.
That doesn't look like a chemtrail. Chemtrail is usually straight. in the
Yeah,
sky, but I mean,
yeah.
it looks like something.
Not back to the
Well, it almost looks like it could be like a meteorite or something skimming through the atmosphere right there.
Okay, but look at the size of that tree.
Yeah, I know.
And look at
It
for it
could
to
be
be
a
a meteorite,
Hey, I'm just saying.
it would have landed
Right.
somewhere and caused a really big hole.
Unless it's shooting across lengthways and it burns up as it's going.
Maybe. I mean,
If you see the actual video of this,
It's going very slow. Isn't
it is. It's
Yeah.
moving really slow for an asteroid or meteorite.
What about swamp gas being down there in Florida?
I believe it.
That's that's one thing they always attribute it to.
Yeah.
Sorry.
It,
But
it very well could be, but I mean, I remember it was very late. I was smoking a cigarette, and all of a sudden I see it was a little white light, and I'm like, oh, okay, satellite, space station, something. Is there something behind me?
No.
Okay.
yeah, there was.
Oh, cool.
I looked it up. Sorry.
But it just started off as a ball, and then it turned into what we see on the screen right now, and it lasted for a while, and I was like, I'm tired or something, or I might be drunk, I'm not even sure. But YouTube and even the newspaper the very next day, I can't remember what the actual newspaper said about
Yeah,
it.
I remember seeing it in the
Let's
headlines.
see if I can't
How
find
close is
it.
that to NASA and all that stuff down there, Cape Canaveral?
Cape Canaveral is literally about 20 minutes from me at most.
I was just curious.
We also have Patrick Air Force Base there too.
Did you say Patrick Swayze?
Yeah, Patrick Swayze's
He
there.
did. Let him go.
John Travolta does live down there though.
Oh yeah.
I'm not sure what this is. Black satellite.
Yeah, I looked that up too.
Oh yes,
You know what that is?
the Black Knight. Anybody looked at it?
Black Knight. I've
Yes.
heard of that.
It's an object that they have no idea. It's orbiting the Earth. They don't know what it is. Who put it there? There it is.
Find the best picture I
And
can.
I guess it only comes around only every so often.
Looks like a shot from Transformers.
Yeah, it does. But they've got they've got, you know.
I've seen that. Somebody said it might be space debris.
Yeah, I'm
possibly.
sure.
That's always the answer to everything,
Yeah.
space debris.
But the fact that it's been up there for decades.
Really?
It's been up there and it just keeps orbiting and then it disappears. No one knows about it, and then it comes back.
One of the first photos was 98.
Yeah.
Never heard of it.
Yeah. They call it the Black Knight.
Why don't they just grab it?
Good question.
I don't know if we have the technology to just grab something big like that.
Or track it.
You know, it's been around for decades, and they've been trying to do that, but it disappears and comes back. That's the thing.
Interesting.
And they can't track it.
Apparently not. Or if they are, they're not telling us what they're tracking, or when it is. I think even the space station has captured things.
That's interesting.
Yeah,
But to me, it almost looks like something off of the Batmobile.
Right.
Like the door
It's
off
the
the
right
bat,
fender.
you know? But yeah, you have that flying around. That nobody has any clue about it.
What's that fourth picture in?
I don't think that's anything. I think
Is
that's
that
a
on it?
plane.
That-
Okay.
I think that's just a plane or something.
Oh, okay.
Because it's not that.
Well, that's
Pretty
yeah,
sure.
that's-
That looks an awful lot like a
It's like a bird.
Yeah. It looks like
something.
I don't know.
But anyway, yeah. You know, space is kind of like the ocean. They keep finding new things that we just have no clue
That's true.
about it. You know?
And there's also a conspiracy that going back to what we talked about a few weeks back about the moon landing, the whole hoax behind that.
Right.
Supposedly there's audio of Neil Armstrong and Buzz Aldrin talking about how they're here with us now. They're watching us.
They talking
Right.
about the craft. He was nervous to get out there.
And something about, man, their ships are so much bigger than ours.
Yeah. They're not happy
They're
that we're
huge.
here.
Yeah.
They're watching us. They're just seeing what we're doing. There's supposedly audio of this. I'm sure I've never heard, but
Yeah. I just recently heard that too, that they have that.
I
Huh.
saw
Actually, I
you
have it
saw
on my
it.
computer.
And saw in our previous video, who's the man enough to ask Buzz Aldrin?
I would ask him.
I would-
I would be
Was
bringing
that-
him
I
a
think I heard
Bible
that
for
name
that, you know. I
Right,
would,
with the video of Buzz Aldrin punching
be
that
asking
guy.
for that.
Yes, I was.
But you heard-
That was
you
the one
remember.
time I sat on the panel.
Couldn't
Get
remember.
the scoring helmet.
Yeah.
I would ask him calmly, you know, what did you hear, you know, Steve? But I wouldn't say swear on my Bible about
So his
it.
question was, don't hit me, I just have one question.
Well, you're not disputing what he did.
Right.
Even though I know how you feel. But,
Even how I feel, I wouldn't be like, hey there, liar.
yeah.
What's going on?
I think I was asking for it. He was giving
Yeah.
his face. And,
Well, he'd been hounding the guy for
He cornered him.
yeah.
On the streets in front
You
of
could
everybody.
tell. Well, you could tell they weren't strangers. He had been hounding the guy because as soon as Buzz Aldrin saw him, he was like, "Get away from me!
Yeah.
I don't want
He
nothing to
was
do with
silent.
you."
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
It's been one of my favorite videos.
Hell yeah.
Yeah.
What
So,
a punch. It's
but,
kind of like we see Bob
So-
Barker fight.
yeah.
So with Roswell, back to that.
Sorry.
We got off a little bit on that, but it's all good because it's all the same. I mean, it's all within the same realm. But
Yep.
what I always found it was fascinating was that was July of 2000. That's July 1947.
Right.
70 years ago last month.
Yeah.
Yep.
Now, go into October 1947, and that's when Chuck Yeager breaks the sound barrier.
Mm-hmm.
When we're supposedly unable to do that, and they say, oh, that we'll probably never do that. But all of a sudden now, in October 1947, we break the sound barrier. And since then, our technology of aircraft and you have, you know,
Even like
cells, everything, it just starts getting better and better and better with jets and everything.
Yeah.
Is it a coincidence? Who knows? Is it the fact that we have technology now that we didn't have prior?
What do you think, Michelle?
I think our technology, because I think if there were secrets like that, the government would have exploded. We would be a lot more advanced, and we would probably be ruling the world because of what we had learned from.
But we're not the only ones who are getting visitors, though.
Yeah.
There's Russia has their own Roswell. There's other countries that have their own Roswell.
So
everybody has had claims of UFO crashes, taking the technology, they've seen it. It's who's able to decipher, who's able to pick up on anything. You know, I mean, it could take decades. It could take forever to piece together everything. I mean, if you're thinking of a race creatures coming from another planet that's livable, they've got to travel, millions of light years away just to get here.
Without technology we have not even thought of. We have not even dreamed of.
So again, if we saw something like that, what would we come of that? What would we do with that?
That would be.
Okay, so when was integrated circuitry invented?
Yes.
Yes.
I don't know.
Okay, so I'll Google it. Because, I mean, that's going to be,
Right.
Integrated circuitry is probably one of the most significant technological advances ever,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But, so, okay, let me Google this right quick. You guys keep talking.
How would we even begin to understand?
Right.
So
That's
we
the
wouldn't be
thing.
able to use it at all.
No, we don't know. We are civilians that don't know this, but because we're not the ones looking at something and dealing with it every single day. It's like a geologist, or it's like anybody who studies volcanoes. I don't understand it, but there's people who do every single day.
Okay, but so what you're saying is we can understand.
I don't know.
Bit.
I don't
well,
know
you
if
said
we
that,
can.
Well, you were saying that
I don't know if we can.
learned to break the sound barrier and stuff.
I'm saying it was a coincidence that from that point to that point, they were saying, no, it wasn't possible. We've tried to go this speed and we failed. We tried to go this speed and failed. Roswell happens, and then all of a sudden our technology starts to boom. And if you start looking.
Okay, I Googled this. Okay, so how are we in 1947 when vacuum tube computers that take up entire rooms to perform a pocket calculator's function in 1947 to an integrated circuit developed in 1958.
We're that smart.
I like her answer.
Or did we just reverse engineer something?
It could have.
Makes me think
I mean, it's a legitimate question. You have to admit, it's a legitimate question.
But then people have been, you look at history and we've just been advancing. Was way back when they were doing the pyramids, was that with alien help? Could be.
It could have been. Very
Yeah,
well.
I think that is one of the.
I think it probably was.
I agree.
mean, they were
I
made
agree.
too perfectly to,
Hmm?
and where they're aligned and where they're positioned in the very center of the continent, the land, and
line up.
everything. I mean, it was too precise. And then you got the pictures of the hieroglyphics that depict what looks like a person in a spacesuit,
Right.
with all the people bowing down to it and celebrating
And
around
on
it.
multiple continents,
Yeah.
all the way from Egypt and Africa to North America, South America, Central America. Even in Asia, in India, it's pyramids. The Nazca lines.
And I would say, they've been helping us all along.
Help us more.
Yeah.
And
Not just Roswell. I think, from
Possibly, unless they, I mean, it's hard to say what the overall plan is. If they are out there, if they are doing what they're doing, we have no idea what their purpose is.
You might never know.
Right.
But if there was a chance, I mean, I watched an interview of a gentleman who was on, he was stationed at Area 51, which everybody out there knows or has at least heard of Area 51. The mysterious base that the military has that tests all kinds of new aircraft. You're not allowed on there. It does have
Not even
signs.
close.
Yeah, a sign does say, beyond this point, you can use deadly force. Yeah.
Big black
I
sword
watched.
coming at you.
I watched an interview with a gentleman who is retired, but he was I guess he was a part of the security out there, but certain hangars out there, he was told you cannot go into.
Right.
And he said he was doing his routine check one day, and he saw the door was ajar,
Mm-hmm.
and he opened it. And when asked on TV, "What did you see?" and he goes, "I can't tell you." They're like, "So even today, you still can't know? Can you deny it?" He goes, "I can't deny what I saw, but I can't tell you what I saw." But the way he was kind of leaning toward was like, there was something in there that we should not have seen. That was in
Wow.
there. That's at least how much he went through. And he seemed believable. I mean, a little old man, I mean.
Right.
But I think, I forget what show that was too. It was on it was on Discovery Channel. On Discovery Channel. But he was just being interviewed saying that, he saw what he saw.
Wasn't the guy. I'm not saying it was aliens.
No, this was an
But
old,
it was
this was
aliens.
an old guy in a suit who's retired from being out in Area 51.
Yeah. Can't remember
So it could have been anything, because he's not saying anything.
Could have been
It could
Bigfoot.
be anything.
He said, when they asked him, was it a alien spacecraft? He said, I can't deny it, but I can't say yes. I can't say no. I can't say yes.
Why even go that far to begin with if you can't even, say what's.
They were asking all kinds of stuff, and he said there were certain hangars that no one was allowed in. You had to have certain clearance, and I mean, when you're building a plane, I mean, for God's sake, it's a plane. I mean, what kind of sonar or radar? What are you putting on there that has to be top secret? If it's a nuke, okay, that's fine. We all know what nukes are. We all know what all the different kinds of bombs are that we have. At least, I mean, we have certain technologies of it. My dad was in the Air Force. I mean, he could tell you all kinds of stuff too.
Mm-hmm.
I think that.
But we have a general knowledge of this kind of stuff. But what are we building in such an aircraft carrier, hangar? That we're not supposed
Well,
to
what's
look at?
that one that it looks like a wing?
The SR-71 Blackbird.
Yeah, it just looks like. I mean, that was very top secret. Through
Oh, that one. Then you have the
stealth.
Yeah, the stealth.
The
that's-
stealth came from there.
Yeah.
So maybe that's what he saw. It looked like an alien spaceship to him. Yeah.
Could have been, but we all know about it now. And why would he deny it then? Why would he deny it on TV? He's like,
Because
oh no, that was
maybe
stealth.
his eyes were playing tricks on him, and he.
No, but why would he deny it today of what he saw when?
Yeah, if it's already
When it's
been
Oh,
common
that's the
knowledge now.
B2. That's the B2 stealth bomb. But all this came from out there. People saw. I mean, people would hang out and videotape it being taken off. We all knew that it was there. It's certain objects that people were seeing in the hangar, or supposedly. I know y'all are laughing at me, thinking I'm
It
crazy.
was.
But
I wasn't laughing.
It's not crazy, it's all
Listen.
questions to be asked and
I don't do the interview justice. I mean, if I had the interview to play, I'd play it. Because he was pretty believable in what he saw. And the fact that, today people take their oath of saying, I'm not going to tell a single soul. And they take it.
Especially if he's older, because that means so much to somebody.
Right.
It's
It's
a lot more than back
Than
then.
what it does now.
right.
Yeah.
So, I mean,
Like, you
Who
didn't
knows
hear
what
from
they
me,
had?
but
Yeah.
Right.
Give me some money under the table.
I don't know. I'm just a
Where's my
believer in it.
pocket?
I think we have so much technology that started to boom from that era on up.
and it could have been
Very
a coincidence, but it also,
I mean,
who knows?
Speaking of coincidence, I mean, we're saying that if in fact these intelligent creatures they traveled so far away,
Or did
but yet the different visions and accounts of what they look like is like us. Very humanoid. 2 eyes, a nose, 2 arms, 2 legs, very humanoid. It just seems a little too coincidental.
Why?
Could it be us trying to relate, and that's why we're only focusing on the stuff that could relate to us or that we can actually understand?
Who's to say it's not a suit that they're wearing?
Oh, that's a good point.
I have a question I want to pose to everybody.
Yes.
There's all the talk of aliens, and flying saucers and all stuff. Maybe I'm just flying off kilter here, but why does it seem like there's always reports? All the reports you hear mostly are near Air Force bases, naval bases, or any kind of armed force bases,
Right.
NASA, in that area. Why don't you hear about them in Idaho or somewhere there?
Oh, you do.
I'm just asking.
You do.
Because you hear more reports of that, so that gives more claim to more weight to the fact that maybe they are
Oh,
military.
there's all kinds of stories
Oh, yeah.
Right.
of sightings and UFOs and all over the world, in rural areas, on the ocean. There's even stories of UFOs coming out of the ocean.
USOs.
Yeah, USOs.
Oh yeah. Okay.
You have those. Yeah.
That's
there
really
are
an
things.
unidentified submerged objects.
Now,
Submersible.
Yeah.
Now, there are a lot of claims during the Cold War when Russia and a lot of areas were having all their nuclear tests and they were going on warnings and stuff.
Mm-hmm.
Soldiers were seeing, like, strange objects in the sky. And
Well, Japan during
Yeah.
World War II, they talked about seeing something a lot. Their kamikaze pilots saw
Right.
something there that they would call like UFOs or something. They don't remember exactly what they used.
Foo Fighters.
Yeah, there you go, Foo Fighters. That's what we're
Love
looking
that
for.
band.
Yeah, great band.
I mean, even Columbus saw lights the night before. He did not find America.
Well,
Right.
still-
Okay.
He found
That's
India.
right.
What are you talking
Okay,
about?
that's all
But
right.
no, but there's even in the logbook that he saw strange lights in the sky. I mean, what if they are
Now,
just there
I've
watching
heard-
all of ours? Now, I've heard there are stories to it.
I've heard a lot of people try to pass that off as the phenomenon called St. Elmo's fire,
Right.
which is when the gathering of static electricity around the tops of the masts, and it kind of causes. But if he was a seasoned sailor, he'd know the difference.
But
So what?
people can make their own assumptions of anything. But if you just read what he wrote, he says there's strange lights off in the horizon there, off in the sky.
Yeah.
Are they watching all of our events, watching us do everything? Who knows? We only think they're coming from millions of light years away. Maybe they're not. We only think as far as we think because we want to think that we are the only ones right here in this area. A lot of people do. I shouldn't say everybody. A lot of people feel safer with the idea that we are alone, we're happy on this planet, and we just want to kill ourselves.
Well, I think it's because we've been told that all the planets in our solar system are lifeless.
And Pluto.
Right.
Yeah, and Pluto. But I think that's why we think.
Right.
But still, that's
And the fear of the unknown, too.
Well, the fear of the unknown, you have, people the religious people who don't want to believe in either. You have all kinds of aspects of that. You have everyone like you said, the mass chaos.
Right.
I mean, the story of Orson Welles' story of War of the Worlds comes on the radio, and everyone goes batshit crazy
Oh, that's real, yeah.
on the streets. You know, that simple right there just shows that we can't handle certain things. Especially as a mass society. We go nuts about stuff. There's sightings in North Carolina of Bigfoot, and they have to make announcements to not shoot it.
Right?
Immediately. Just don't shoot. Don't shoot. Don't go crazy, because everyone wants to shoot first, ask questions later.
Right.
It's mass hysteria. People are happy not knowing or thinking about it could be real. And we only think so far with like our technology and our gas fuel. You know, we only know how to travel in certain ways. They may be able to travel in a different way.
Well, that's just that I was having this conversation, but we deal with mathematics, and that's the only thing we really know.
Right. I don't even know that. I hate that.
Yeah.
I'm sorry,
But I
Phil.
think
I couldn't hear you.
Math
Okay.
is the basis for everything. I think they're beyond that.
Yeah.
We just haven't got to that point.
Right. I mean, like you said, you know, we think it's the basis of everything, but it may not be.
And who knows? I mean, they could be developed enough that they use, if they are humanoid and they are set up like we are, they use a lot more of their brain than we do. I mean, it could be something like
That
that.
would take much, huh?
No, right? You know, just 21%.
Yeah.
But and that could be it too.
Yeah, you know, we haven't even touched our own brain that.
Right.
My question also to you guys is a couple different things. Well, one, there's been reports that we're doing all the Mars research now. We're doing even as far as Saturn recently. There's been, by the rings and the moons of Saturn, there's been actual video evidence of something flying out there that they're attributing to possibly UFOs.
I heard it was space dust.
Well, that's even on the space dust. No, I'm kidding. So there's that, but also, what about the claim more recently, well, not more recently, just throughout time here, that they said the aliens are on Earth already, they're amongst us. What are your guys' thoughts on that?
Possible.
Why do you say possible? What leads you to think that they're here possibly, right? I'm just curious.
I don't know. I just think that I think they've been here for thousands of years, and I don't know what their agenda is, but I think there's more interaction. It's just my opinion.
No, it's good. I mean,
But you don't believe in Roswell?
I think she's
I'm gonna sit over here so I don't get hit.
You're not saying that you don't believe
No, I know.
that whatever's happening. You just don't believe that it was a conspiracy.
right.
But
I
if
think
they-
I have too many questions about
But
that.
if they've been here for so long, how come we don't know yet?
It's a good hiding.
Well, then NASA already knows that they're here. And their reports agreed.
Why don't you
Evidence in the
see
president's book.
ghosts? You know why?
Yeah.
We do.
We need to do a show about that.
What is
The
the
president's book.
The president's book.
Oh, that'd be good. Yeah.
Sorry, didn't mean to get us off
Can
topic.
we get Nicolas Cage on here too?
That would be awesome.
Very fun. Also very thought.
Sorry.
No, I could go into the whole lizard people thing. That's what the alien
Oh, yeah.
theory here. That
Oh yeah.
everybody from Obama to you name it is the alien.
You got the video of the lizard face
Yeah.
in a Secret Service
Yeah.
guy, his eyes
Yeah.
changed and everything.
Isn't that contributed to the Illuminati though?
What's
That's
that?
gonna come up later. Illuminati. That's another subject.
But the lizard eyes, isn't that contributed to the
It's
Illuminati?
all tied in together.
Hmm.
I mean,
Well,
you can twist it
there's
all any which way.
according to some sources, there's actually current collaboration between an alien race and the Illuminati or the
Yeah.
super governments or
I
whatever.
refuse to believe that they would pick Justin Bieber. So
Yeah. No, that's definitely a topic we're going to get into. Probably in weeks coming up. Definitely the Illuminati. I want to get into Freemasons.
Mhm.
Because all kinds of
Yep.
intermingles with what we talk about. And I mean,
So is
it's
your
pretty
goal
cool.
for us to be shut down eventually?
I would love to have people on
They
our
can
doorstep.
try.
People on our doorstep, you know, men in black suits, anybody.
Free
Oh,
speech.
yeah.
It's free speech. We can
Yes.
talk about what we
We're all gonna disappear.
And Michelle's like, we told you, Michelle.
Okay, you guys were right.
Just like I told you so.
But
I can see.
Just have Facebook Live going the entire time or something.
that's right.
Yeah.
So,
Can you say that again? Nope.
No, that's it.
oh, God.
And this is how much fun we have, guys.
This is why we do it. I mean, like I said, no subject matter is off limits. We'll talk about whatever we want to here. And like I said, I would love to have protesters out there. I would love Westboro to be out there protesting our door. I mean, it's all free publicity for us, so
Right.
I'm all for it. So, no
I
press,
had-
no press
I
is
had-
bad press.
I don't know if you guys saw it, but I had like one person, not really a protest, but it was a definitely a comment on the on our post from
Yeah, I saw that.
What were we talking about?
it was on Facebook. It was from our Wilson trip, from one of our live footage.
Yeah.
I deleted it, got rid of it, but
Oh man, I was just trying to look it up.
no, I deleted it.
Something
But
up here.
you know,
You gotta tell me
we
what this
do
is.
get people who get
We're
you know
going
cranky
to
about what we do and what we talk about and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, I read
Personally,
that.
I don't care.
Yeah, I don't care. I was like delete, you know, talking crazy somewhere else. I don't
Well,
care.
it's just like us. We
But-
don't agree on everything.
No, of course not.
No, but we're still all friends and
Yeah.
we can discuss
So
it.
you
We
said-
can have a
Well, I
we
still
can have a
like
semi-adult conversation about stuff and
Right.
Yeah, you know, we don't
Semi-adult.
Now, so one last thing to close up Roswell. I did see this test that was done out nearby out there in Roswell. They took a group of people, and what they wanted to do was walk them, or I think they drove them actually. They drove them on a bus down this road, and in certain sections they set up fake crash sites and different things. Like one site had 3 aliens, one site just had a clown, one had you know just different things. They didn't
Which
have
one do you
they
want
didn't
to
have
do?
a clown, but they had sorry, I had to see that. They had different things set up, and when they drove these people down, they couldn't agree upon what they saw at the end.
Yeah.
Yes.
So therefore, it goes with, you know, what are people actually seeing in the heat of the moment?
right.
How much can they remember? How much can they retain? You know, some were saying, oh, there were 6 aliens when there was only 1, or there was none, or there was a ship and nothing else there, or there's, you know, basically just a jeep that was sitting there, a military jeep. But
Right.
yet, in their mind, they immediately thought, oh, aliens were with it too.
Yeah.
They
Right.
couldn't get the stories right, and that's what kind
So you add that to a 70-year-long
Yes.
telephone game.
of
Right.
yeah.
So, guys, it really wasn't aliens. They found hedgehogs.
But so you know, like you said, you know, you have to take, you know, it's stories. There is no definitive proof to it. But there are a lot of researchers out there that are, you know, they claim that they have documents from eyewitnesses,
Mhm.
and they pinpoint them, and they try to come up with a good story to
Right.
And just like you said, everybody saw it differently.
it. Exactly.
You also have tons of airplane pilots, tons of military personnel. You have tons of astronauts that have all seen something they cannot explain. It's right next to our airplane. Now it's whatever, moving whatever, you know, erratically that we talk
Mhm.
about, and next thing it's gone. It's just straight up in the air, and that
Yeah.
no man-made machine can do that as of right now, per se.
And I
That's
think
sweet.
they tracked them on radar too.
Right.
And radar sees an object from over here, then all of a sudden it's clear over here, which doesn't make any sense.
What's the
Hear that?
I saw it. It was a flash
What's the
back there.
Oh, wow.
satellite group
I didn't
that was
Pass my-
started
pass
as
my
a
line of sight,
monitor?
but
Say?
Yeah,
I heard
that's it.
something.
Our office
Yeah,
light
said
that's on, it flashed right there.
Huh.
Sorry, aliens are
Interesting.
Aliens are here with
Sorry,
us.
Westboro, I was kidding. Anyway, go ahead.
No, he's not.
I'm never kidding. Sorry. Get into that. Anyway, go ahead.
No, you have SETI, that the satellite group that's supposedly monitoring.
And they look more at the scientific point of, you know, so they try to collect evidence.
See if there's any signal coming
Did you hear
back out there.
I'm watching Stan and hearing. Sorry.
I thought-
Go ahead. I'll listen to your conversation.
Oh, no.
Sorry for being interrupted.
You guys are. Dang it.
The ghosts here are mad that we're not talking about ghosts this week. We're talking about aliens instead.
Ghosts of aliens, what about that? I'm just
Hey,
saying.
that's a whole new.
Are you seeing
Cecil
movie
movie?
out there?
Should have been paying attention.
Okay.
Have you been paying attention? I've been kind of watching you, see that you have the same reaction I can see your face. You're like, so I'm kind of watching you.
I didn't see that last thing.
That was weird. I don't know what that was.
So that's SETI. That's the search for intelligent.
Search for extraterrestrial intelligence.
Thank you. How do you get the initials right there?
Other than just my cable. Good.
No, we drove around. It was out in Wilson, wasn't it? Wasn't there one building or one house out there that had like 5 of those in their backyard?
Yeah. Was that on every channel?
Yeah. But you know, you see that, you know, Mulder on X-Files is always, you know, that was like a big thing for X-Files. So he's talking about, I know it. Can't wait for the new season.
Love it so much.
When's that starting? In January?
It's not coming soon. Yeah,
Just
I don't know when. I don't know when. Because there's not a gut film yet, so. What are you laughing about over there?
Did anyone's opinions change?
No.
No.
Not really.
Michelle, no.
No.
Paula?
Anyone? No. I don't think none of our opinions have
Yeah.
changed.
No.
Yeah.
We're pretty set in our ways.
Michael says that he's been hearing
Yeah.
things going all around us.
Oh, cool.
Yeah. Earlier he said it sounded like something was thrown.
Something was what?
Thrown?
Or if that's an AC here, no, maybe.
No, this is the beginning of the show.
Yeah, I mean, I've been hearing some knocks behind you guys, matter of fact. But,
Yeah.
no, there's been some weird stuff that was happening on this side of the room and on that side of the room for some reason. Just you would see stuff and hear stuff.
Yeah, I mean, if you go back to even the demonic episode, all the stuff that we heard then, that was crazy.
But that kicked it off big time.
Yeah.
We're going to have to do another episode that has to do. I mean, we're going to here. Probably even next episode is going to be something that could kick things off around.
Yeah.
That's.
We telling them what we're talking about next week, get them ready.
Go for it.
Stuff.
Stuff.
Tune in to find out. No, we're probably going to go into something like curses and hoaxes and stuff like that, darker imagery or
Dark magic.
White magic, black magic.
I was gonna line the title out as kind of curses, hexes, and black magic.
What I say.
I like that.
Yeah. So if anybody at home have any thoughts on that, please email us. Like I said, write us. Post it. Yes, post it. Pony Express. I don't know. Message us on Facebook. Send through an alien aircraft, whatever you want to do. You know, send it to us. We'll definitely talk about it. So we have a lot of experience with some of that stuff.
Don't forget you can call in too if you have something to add.
Yeah, you can call in always. Don't be shy, people at home. I mean, you can hear us talking. We're not some of the most prettiest on over audio and video, so don't be afraid to be cool with yourself too.
I've been the only one to actually call in twice now.
Yeah, I don't count though.
It does
You were
count.
sitting in the same room.
Not the second time. I was home.
I wasn't here that day.
Nope.
So
Hi.
yeah, so. Oh my god. Well, so like you said, aliens, do they exist or not? I mean,
We could still go on and
we
on.
may
Oh.
never know.
It's something we could talk about,
Yeah.
Forever.
yeah, and never come to a conclusion until one actually walks up in front of us and says hi. You know.
Wait,
Or they pop
wait.
out of your chest.
Bigfoot too.
Oh, God, well, there's one.
I was like, and I'm done.
You know, you know, that could go with just about anything, even spirits, Bigfoot, aliens, whatever you want to look at, until they actually come up and wave at us and say, right here.
Yeah.
You know.
Oh, there's still gonna be somebody that's gonna have to be like, nope, he was in a suit.
That's rote. That's just that's his comment. That's his opinion.
Make fun of them all that happening.
Oh, we haven't. No, we haven't. But
We got 2 minutes. We can do this.
We will be. We're saving it. We've got Jason and I have some stuff in the works.
Oh, gotcha.
And-
For the thing that we're gonna start, I'm gonna make him be the
okay. Yeah.
mascot.
Yeah.
Dress him up in a Sasquatch. Have him hand out samples. And go.
Oh, that would be
For him
awesome.
Just to sit there in a suit during the show.
Yes. I want Paula to do it too, so she can actually sit on this side of the table.
For Halloween, you at least need to dress up in something and sit here.
Okay, well, we're probably. Think about that Chewbacca mask.
There you go.
Right.
When that moves.
Yeah.
Have you seen the girl with it? She is so tickled. So tickled. She's like, ah!
Yeah, she was on Ellen and all. Yeah, she's made her rounds on that.
So excited about it. It's the simple things in life, guys.
Okay, so what do you guys think? We done?
Nah, I think.
Ready to wrap up?
Yeah, we probably better start wrapping
About
up.
3 minutes.
Alright.
We'll go down the usual kind of thing, housekeeping rules, or not rules, but items. Agendas. Coming up in a couple weeks, we have Dodge City. We're doing a private investigation down there. Also, the following weekend, we go to Overland. Do a public investigation again. We'll try to Facebook Live, probably both events, hopefully, throughout the night. And then, following month, October 13th, 14th, is where the public can join in again, where it's not sold out quite yet. So, you have two opportunities. You have Leavenworth on Friday night. You have Saturday, you have Lawrence, October 14th. It's the Eldridge Hotel. It's reported to be very haunted.
Very few spots left on that,
Oh.
if not any
Yeah.
left, last I heard.
So for tickets on those, go to ghosttowardthekansas.com. It's on our website. You can link it from us. You can find it through us. Definitely come join the adventure with us. The last two we've had have been fun, and we've had some great results. As far as guests, we've had some good experiences.
Can't wait to get back out to the depot there in Oberlin.
Yeah.
Yeah. See if anything comes of that. Because none of you guys have been in there. Did you go out there that night?
I didn't go out there,
It was freezing.
but I've been practicing.
freezing.
It was so cold.
I've been practicing with the flashlight.
Okay.
Which one?
Overland.
Oberlin.
Oh,
Depot.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you guys were so frozen.
Oh my god.
You
yeah.
came in and it was,
I think I got
Yeah, you see the video footage of me from in the distance walking past, and I was so stiff walking, you could tell I was just frozen. Just walking past the camera, coming back in.
I
out
couldn't even
there.
get the key into the lock. because
Right.
I had
Oh,
shakes.
wow.
Right.
Or, yeah.
And then holding the camera while you were right there holding
I
the
don't know how
camera.
you did that.
I just focused on keep it still. Keep it still. Because Roth had it and his hand was shaking the entire time. So the footage was very motion sickness right there on that. So I was trying to focus on not shaking, but it hurt so bad.
We'll have the evidence up here shortly, websites. Because I've been working on it lately, trying to get that
Yes.
put up, and
It's Everyday Legacy, everydaylegacy.com.
Right.
He's got the website up and coming with a lot more evidence on there.
Yep, I've been working hard to get that back running again, the way it should be. So,
It looks good, too.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, it does.
Definitely
It does.
all
So
right.
much more.
Well,
Don't forget to subscribe on YouTube, like and follow us on Facebook, and
Twitter.
we will. I think we're about done for the night. We will catch you guys next week.
Talking about curses and
hoaxes.
hoaxes, and let's see if we
Hexes,
can
not
stir something up.
hoaxes, hexes.
Oh, hoaxes. Sorry, take our ball. All right, guys.
okay. Good night.
Thank you
Good
all.
night,
at home.
Everland.
See you next week.
See ya.
Good night.